Lo que ha estado diciendo Seymour Hersh, el Pulitzer, en medio de todos los capítulos que está abriendo, en el que directamente está apuntando a Estados Unidos, tenemos que tener en cuenta que Rusia le está pidiendo directamente a Estados Unidos que demuestre que no estuvo detrás de las explosiones Nord Stream. Y recordemos que este 22 de febrero Rusia ha convocado al Consejo de Seguridad de la ONU para hablar más en detalle de estas detonaciones. ¿Qué sabemos en el marco de todo esto? ¿Qué es lo último que tenemos que vigilar sobre el asunto del Nord Stream?
Bueno, lo que vamos a hacer en realidad es un ejercicio de cierta conspiranoia o gimnasia mental, pero lo digo porque luego hay quien le da credibilidad a las cosas de un lado o del otro, entonces no, o al revés, de este sí, pero de aquel no, de este no, de este sí, en fin. Vamos a contarlo simplemente lo que se va publicando. Desde la agencia de noticias rusa RIA están publicando que John Dugan, que es un periodista con cierta reputación, no es Hersh, pero tiene cierta reputación en Estados Unidos, les ha enviado una carta anónima. Claro, hay como muchas conjunciones, pero atentos a lo que dice la carta. Una carta que dice que el 15 de junio un helicóptero entregó a un grupo de estadounidenses vestidos de civil que recibió el vicealmirante de la Sexta Flota de Estados Unidos y que tenían equipo profesional de buceo para aguas profundas. Es decir, algo que ni siquiera tienen militares regulares. Después de esa conversación con el vicealmirante, siempre según esta carta, navegaron con unas cajas en un bote de goma hasta el mar y se hundieron bajo el agua. Estuvieron allí 6 horas. Regresaron sin las cajas y se los llevó un helicóptero militar. Todo esto, como pueden ustedes comprender, en esa zona del Nord Stream. Entre esto y que hay algún exagente de la CIA y exasesor del Pentágono señalando directamente a Biden con el asunto del sabotaje al Nord Stream, ya no es solo la voz del Pulitzer Hersh la que señala desde propio suelo estadounidense al gobierno demócrata de Joe Biden. De nuevo, más dedos acusadores señalando al presidente estadounidense por ese sabotaje a una de las mayores infraestructuras energéticas de Europa.
Pues muy interesante, la trama cada vez...
Right now is former Secret Service agent and the guy who's written the new book called Crisis of Character regarding Hilary Clinton and his time watching Bill Clinton as he worked outside the Oval Office, Gary Byrne. Gary, before we talk a little bit about your new book, which is a runaway bestseller, you were posted in Turkey. Are you surprised that John Huddy is able to get that close? I mean, they've already opened up the airport. We got some live images right there. There's one of the bullet holes right there in the glass.
Yeah. Actually, what you're seeing there is something I actually experienced years ago in the early 1980s when I went to the Ankara airport. There had been an attack in the 70s, and the bullet holes were still there.
Right. It's so important to tell the terrorists we had to go back to business. And they did the same thing in Israel, too. Opened up the cafe hours after the attack took place.
Yeah, the Turkish mentality is tough. They're strong people, and I wish them the best.
Gary, let's talk about some of what you saw your years as a Secret Service agent with Hillary Clinton in your book that's chronicled in your book, Crisis of Character. First off, you open up talking about Bush 41.
Yes.
And you pretty much echo what many people say, solid class, and you expected to see the same thing in the transition to the Clintons.
Yes.
But who were the Clintons? How was it different?
So when I first started working protecting the Clintons, actually, they were running for office. And we heard all these rumors from Arkansas. And
what rumors?
Rumors about the president affairs and about the state police that protected him being forced to help him facilitate these things.
Troopergate?
Yeah, so that kind of thing. And we also heard these stories about their behavior with each other. Volcanic, dangerous. And actually, I talked to this sheriff down there one time, and I was joking with him. I said, there's no way this guy could ever get elected. And he looked at me like he was looking right through me, and he said, let me tell you something, Gary. Believe everything you hear, and they will get elected.
Wow.
And they'll stay there for 8 years. He said, it is unbelievable. He said they could spin manure in the gold. That's the term.
Gary, the first chapter is called The Vase.
Yes.
What's the Vase story?
So I came to work one morning as a Secret Service Uniform Division officer, and before I went to my post, I went over to see a buddy in the ground floor of the White House, and he had said there had been a huge fight. The first family, Mr. and Mrs. Clinton, had a huge fight upstairs. And I know this sounds like silly, like you were eavesdropping, but you have to put yourself in that position. The White House is huge, it's old, you know, the sound travels right down the stairwells and the elevator shafts. So anyway, he said during the fight there was a crash, and when it was investigated, they found a blue vase. Now, this has been reported before as a lamp, but that's not true. I saw the vase, because after he told me the story, knowing how the White House worked, I walked right down to the curator's office, which was a couple doors down, opened the door and looked in, and there I saw a crushed, you know, broken blue vase in a cardboard box.
In the archives room.
In the curator's office, yes, ma'am.
So then when you saw the president...
Yeah, so later on, the next time I saw the president over at the Oval Office when he came in, he had a mark under his eye. It was a black eye, but you could see they were trying to conceal it with makeup. And I said to his assistant, Nancy Herrenreich and Betty Carey, what's that mark under the president's eye? Right. And they said, Nancy said, oh, he's allergic to coffee. And I said, under one eye? And so as Nancy walked into her little part of the office and I started to walk out, I turned to Betty Carey and I said, you know, I'm allergic to the back of somebody's hand.
Yeah, no kidding.
And I was just trying to spark a reaction to figure out, you know, what was going on.
Yeah, they weren't going to spill the beans. But, Gary, given the fact you describe, it has been described, the relationship between Hillary and Bill Clinton, volcanic, very loud. At some point, you had conversations with other Secret Service agents about what do we do? We're here to protect the President of the United States. What happens if his wife is the troublemaker?
Right. That was a topic of discussion. It kind of started out one day, in particular, I remember, as like we were joking about it. And then all of a sudden, the agent I was talking with was like, well, what would we do? I go, well, you got to protect the president. I mean, if she walks in and when he's doing something he shouldn't be, and, you know, you got to protect the president, you got to protect her. And whoever the poor person is that's there, they're kind of on their own.
So
you know?
The scenario was if she walked in on the president with one of the women.
Right. Right. It was a concern.
Right.
And then when you take what I experienced and what other people experienced about her dangerous, angry behavior and put that together, it's, you know, it's a recipe for domestic violence.
She hated to see you guys.
She did not like...
You had to basically jump into a closet to stay out of her eyesight.
Well, we were supposed to. I would tell you that I never did. And it got me in a couple jams once in a while, like on the road. Yes, there was this guideline that she didn't want to see people. And
here's an example. Check out this quote from your book. She said, once threw a Bible at an agent on her detail, hitting him in the back of the head. Assignment to her detail was a form of punishment handed down by passive-aggressive middle management. When her detail passed, Mrs. Clinton expected everyone to just disappear. She didn't want to see anyone in the White House halls. If the whole place were the personal executive mansion, it was insulting. She hated uniforms.
Yeah, yes. You were giving up your life, or could be potentially giving up your life to protect her.
Right. My experience with them is they don't like the military and they don't like law enforcement. And my personal feeling, based on what I saw, is she does not like men.
Sure. Also, what about the Lewinsky affair and what you did to short-circuit it, and she overcame it, and they were unbelievably sloppy about it?
I tried to help them when I could. When it was clear to me that Monica Lewinsky was trying to put herself in the president's path all the time, I went to Evelyn Lieberman, and I asked her to take some steps to have her removed. And she understood what I was saying. And I actually said to Evelyn, look, if I'm overstepping my bounds, then file a complaint. But I think it's that important. And Monica got removed for about a week, and then magically she came back, not an intern now, but with a hard White House pass that allows her to go most anywhere but the private living quarters.
Tell us the thong story.
So one day Monica manipulated herself into the Oval Office area, and she walked by my post, and President Clinton was actually in George Stephanopoulos' office, which was just past his dining room, and he was conferring with George, and he stepped out in the hallway and he saw Monica coming down the hallway, and they had, you know, a few words, you know, like, you know, hi, how are you, pleasantries, and I was standing there, and by this time, like, I had been trying to usher Monica out, you know. So anyway, as they were talking, I closed the gap a little bit, and she could see me coming, so she started walking away. And as she walked past, she had this dress on, and she looked back and made sure the president was looking at her, and then she flipped up the dress and showed him her blue thong. I felt like I was at... It was just bizarre. It was like a nightclub.
Like you're in Cancun or something.
Yeah, people are asking why you're doing this, why you're telling
so much. I'm telling my story because I want the truth to come out. You know, I have to look my kids in the face like everybody else. And when you experience the things that I did, 3 years ago, I had to sit down on the couch like we are with my kids, and I had them search on Google my name, Bill Clinton's name, and Monica Lewinsky's name. I wanted to tell them what had happened because they were going to study about it in school. And let's face it, some of the things that are now our history are R-rated.
And you're in it.
Yeah, and I wanted my kids to know it from their father, what had happened. And I want people to know that this image, I realize all politics has a little bit of, you know, over the top, you know, about their candidates, but this image of Mrs. Clinton, that she's a leader, is completely wrong.
And
I'm sorry.
Mrs. Clinton's machine is trying to unbook you. CNN's already unbooked you. None of the networks will touch you. You just mentioned George Stephanopoulos. You think they're going to tell that story on GMA?
No, and the funny thing is when people come out, like this retired Secret Service Association comes out and says, I never had access. All you have to do is go ask George Stephanopoulos. I stood right outside his door for years. I was friends with his assistants. Everybody knows who I am.
All right,
Gary Byrne. Afraid of the truth.
We all know who you are, definitely. Gary Byrne wrote the book. It's called Crisis of Character, if you want to pick it up.
And I'll talk to you on radio in a little while.
Thank you so much.